right. Welcome, everyone. It is 6:02 p.m. Sorry, we're a couple minutes late. This is the regular meeting for March 8th, 2022, Board of Education regular meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. I'll do a quick roll call. I'm here. Stacy, begin. Trustee Alvarez.
Here.
Thanks. Trustee Mike Blessing.
Here.
Trustee Eric Joyce.
I'm here.
Excellent. And Trustee Eleanor Evans.
Here.
Excellent. All right. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Trustee Evans so graciously offered to say the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. If you're able to stand, please stand. Please put your right hand over your heart. And if you're a veteran, you're wearing a head covering, you may continue to wear your head covering. If you're not a veteran, please remove your head covering. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Trustee Evans. Moving on to our next item, item C, public report out of action taken in closed session. Item 1C, expulsion of student, one case, Education Code 35146 and 489818. The board unanimously voted to expel student ID number 1026916 for 2 semesters, March 9th, 2022 through December 16th, 2022. Student will be eligible to return on January 9th, 2023. Our next item of action taken in closed session is item 1D, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation, one case, Government Code 54956.9 OAH case number 2021120101. The board voted 5-0 to ratify a settlement agreement reached by parties in the OHA case number 202-1120-101, in which the district agrees to fund placement in a non-public school, compensatory education expenses, attorney fees, and resolve all issues in dispute regarding the 2019-2020 and the 2020-21 school year, and all prospective claims through the remainder of the 2021-22 school year. All right, moving on to one of my favorite parts of the meeting, student representatives. So we have our 3 high school students, and we're going to go ahead and start out with Surfside High School, Evan Hemmerly. Hi, Evan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Tell us all the good things going on at Surfside.
Good evening, school board members, Dr. Vitale, and guests. My name is Evan Hemmerly, and I'm the student representative for Surfside Educational Academy this evening. Congratulations go out to our February Students of the Month. Angel Gomez Galavan was chosen from Surfside High School, and Pablo La Rosa was chosen from Surfside Academy. Both students received a certificate of recognition and a Surfside t-shirt. Surfside teachers and staff selected Angel and Pablo from the list of nominations. Both students were nominated based on their academic growth, their accountability to self-direction, and overall outstanding students. Great job, Angel and Pablo. Angel Gomez Galavan was also selected as the March recipient of the City of Oceanside Chamber of Commerce Rising Star Award. Angel, a Surfside senior, is known for being a young man who treats everyone with respect. Despite some challenges, he has pursued to the goal of graduation. Surfside Educational Academy welcomes Liz Leguamo, counselor with Maricosta College. Liz is working as an extension of Maricosta 3 days a week with our students. She is assisting them and providing information regarding class enrollment, dual enrollment, certification, and associate degree offerings, students support, and much more. We thank Liz for her work with our Surfside Sharks. On Wednesday, March 2nd, our students had the opportunity to listen to Marty Anderson with the Associate General Contractors of America to share about the construction industry. He coordinates the apprenticeship program in San Diego, and students can earn while they learn, which is one huge benefit to this great program. Other benefits are regular salary increase as you learn new skills, supervise on-the-job training, classroom instruction, and opportunity for promotion. For more information, please visit the website at www.agsagcsdatt.org. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Evan. All right, our next student is Gabby Kimbrell from Oceanside High School. Hi, Gabby.
Hi, good evening. I'm Gabby Kimbrell, and I'm OHS's ASB president. Thank you for having me board and Superintendent Dr. Vitale. So our past events that I'm going to be talking about is our Spirit Week, our Winter Pep Rally, our Snowball, President's Week, and our competition team. So our Snowball Spirit Week, Monday was PJ Day, Tuesday was Animal Print Day, Wednesday was Camo Day, Thursday was Iconic Duo Day, and Friday we had our class colors. So the colors that we picked matched our theme to our dance, and our dance was Enchanted Forest. So seniors wore black, juniors wore white, sophomores wore purple, and freshmen wore pink. Sorry. Oh, our snowball was at the Vista Optimist Club. It was from 6 to 10. We want to congratulate our we have 85 honoring graduates and more to come since the record of 2015. Next page. Our very own competition team, we traveled to Las Vegas, Nevada, February 10th through the 13th, and we competed against at least 50 different teams, and we placed 4th out of all of them. So the next page. Awesome. Our pep rally for our Snowball Spirit Week was outside. We wanted to do a more inclusive theme, so we had the home side of the bleachers where all the students sat, and all of the action happened down on the field. Awesome. Yeah, I already talked. Our snowball was at the Vista Optimist Club, and there was about 400 people that attended. Okay, what we've been up to. So we have New Pirate Day and Night, which is tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about some of our sports and our events. New Pirate Day, which is tomorrow. This is where we welcome our 8th graders from a middle school. Just show them the pirate life, what high school is going to be like, why they should go there. We talk about our pathways, classes that you can take, clubs that you can join, and sports that you can join. We have a pirate night, which parents can come also hear about the information as well. Our sports, we want to congratulate our girls basketball team. They finished with the Avocado League unbeaten. Their banner just ordered and will be hanging up soon in our gym. Girls water polo, competitive cheer, boys and girls basketball, and boys and girls soccer have just finished their season. Our track, baseball, softball, boys golf, boys volleyball just began their season. Our show choir traveled to Burbank. They placed 2nd, and when they finished, super proud of them. It was their first competition of the year. Oh, and what's on the horizon? We have our testing and our block schedule, which we started on Monday. I'll give more information on how New Pirate Day and Night went next month, and we have spring break coming up. Thank you for having me, and that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabby. My son's going to New Pirate Day tomorrow, so that should be fun. All right. Our last student speaker is Liliana Tita from El Camino High School. Liliana.
Hi. All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you to Board President Dr. Biggin and the rest of the board members, to Superintendent Dr. Vitality, her executive staff, and all who are present this evening for giving me the time to speak. My name is Lily Tita. I'm the ASB president and student representative from El Camino High School. Starting off with the week of January 31st through the 4th, ASB had karaoke during lunch on Friday and gave kids the opportunity to show off their skills. Girls and boys basketball senior night was February 4th. Senior Nariah Smith hit her 1,000th point during the game. Our varsity girls players also finally got their CIF rings from the 2019 to 2020 season. Our athlete of the week for this week was Isaiah Pomer from the boys varsity basketball team. The following week of February 7th through the 11th, PALS put on a cloud-catching lunchtime activity where our students got a whipped cream, Principal Frazier, and their teachers. All levels of academic team had a clean sweep Thursday night against Bohomie Park. Our CF team students got the opportunity to talk with Mayor Sanchez. Boys and girls soccer had their senior nights this week, and girls soccer beat Oceanside for the Battle of the Board, and boys beat Vista High. Our girls cheer team volunteered at a prom for special needs young adults Night to Shine at North Coast Church. And the athlete of the week this week was Mackenzie Kozina, a senior on varsity girls basketball. Continuing the week of February 14th through the 18th, on Valentine's Day, the National Honor Society had a mock marriage ceremony fundraiser fully stocked with ring pops. We celebrated Valentine's and Snowball with our Winter Week Spirit Days. Our pep rally revealed our snowball court and acknowledged winter sports. Saturday, we had our snowball dance at the Center of Arts in Escondido. This week, band and orchestra also had an awesome winter performance. Our rising star this month was Nee Zo. Nee was recognized by the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce for rising above the circumstances she faced as a new immigrant to the U.S. right in the midst of a pandemic, knowing no English. On February 17th, students from the Black Student Union, as well as several students from our ethnic studies classes, also had an opportunity to attend the Black College Expo down in San Diego. The exposition had a great opportunity for students to get connected with historically Black colleges and universities and potentially gain additional options for college. Some students were offered scholarships and admissions right there on the spot during this expo. Thank you to Dr. Lawrence and Maesha Wingham for your support with the organization and transportation for the event. Here are some highlights of our athletics at EC. Our girls basketball went undefeated in league and won the North County Coastal League Championship. They then went on to play in the D1 CIF Championship versus Bishop Montgomery, but sadly came up short 57-43. Girls water polo ended their great season with an overtime and sudden death during their semifinal game in a tough loss against Claremont. Our wrestling team brought the city championship cup back to Wildcat Country with a win over CHS. Boys soccer victoriously won league for the first time ever in 41 years. Boys volleyball won the crosstown rival game, beating Oceanside 3-0, and they also held their annual
Uh-oh, did we lose her? Aw,
Yeah, I think something happened with the volume.
all right. Aw, she was doing such a good job, Liliana. All right, moving on to item 2E, approval of agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve our last board meeting agenda.
I'll
Make a
move approval.
motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving our agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 3, reports. I'll turn it over to Dr. Vitale for the superintendent's report.
Just a couple of updates, but first, it's always so exciting to hear what our students are involved with. So I really appreciate them putting together those very thorough presentations of what keeps them busy between meetings. So just a couple of reminders to the Board of Education that the mask mandate ends in the state of California for K-12 schools. And as of March 14th, which is Monday, masks are optional. We will still be providing masks for anyone who wishes to wear a mask. And our next meeting, which is our board workshop on March 22nd, will be in person. And then we anticipate all subsequent meetings being in person as well, with our next regular board meeting on April 12th. So we look forward to being back in person, and looks like we're on the way to some normalcy, and very excited about that. So with that, we can move forward to our board reports.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Vitale. All right, we'll start with Eleanor Evans tonight.
Thank you. This month has I've been really active and involved in a great many committees with the district and with the community. The one program committee event that I really would like to share is Portrait of a Graduate, because it was the opportunity for the community, parents, faculty, staff, students, and scholars, and stakeholders to come together to structure Oceanside Unified School District's vision for the 21st century. What skills, character traits, as well as social emotional competency all of our students will need to succeed in college, in career, in life. And it's a phenomenal program that we're going through. It goes beyond transformational learning or educational reform. It's because we have students involved, we have the community involved, we have parents involved, we have faculty involved, we have staff involved. And this is the time where we can empower and enable our students and prepare them to be really successful individuals in the 21st century. Thank you. I also want to make a comment about the American General Contractors Association that visited Surfside High School. That is a phenomenal program in that they do provide students with a skill, but they also provide scholarships, and it's a earn while you learn kind of situation. And once you're in the union or you're on the job site, you're constantly learning, and it's an opportunity to even get a 4-year degree, because many of the organizations do have a college, and that's recognized. So thank you.
Eleanor, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Joyce.
Evening, everyone. Went to a couple of things over the last month. Some basketball games. Surfside basketball team was really fun to watch. And then I went to the OHS girls basketball game, where their playoff game, which was a gut wrenching loss. They were so fun to watch, though. It was really a great atmosphere, and it felt like being on a real high school campus again, which was pretty cool. We're celebrating Women's History Month. So in that vein, I have been thinking a lot about the people and the women that really inspire me, and Shirley Chisholm is one of those. And one of my favorite Shirley Chisholm quotes is that service is the rent that you pay for the room on this earth. So I'm just gonna give a shout out to all the awesome women that really carry schools on their back. And she was an educator as well.
We thank you, Eric.
All right, thanks. All right, moving on, Raquel Alvarez.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. I was busy. I was actually busy because things are getting back to normal. I'm back to my new normal, whatever that is, because I was never normal, right? So I had the honor, thanks to Mr. Zimmerman and Miss Mariani, to go to Biztown today with San Luis Rey Elementary. And that was awesome. I love seeing the kids, their interaction, the hard work they put into everything. And so everything that they learned and prepped to get to this point, to see them in action is always fun, because then you see the work that they put into it and everything that they've done all along, just actually now in play. So thank you for that, because again, it's wonderful to see them all again interacting. I was walking around with TC this week and the last couple of weeks, actually just talking with students, seeing how they're feeling, things that are going on, the social and emotional part of the different things that they're dealing with. So thank you to them for just letting me just hook up with students and talk to them just openly and freely. I want to put a shout out to Gear Up. They gave an opportunity to a lot of our families, the students that participate with Gear Up after school tutoring program that they offer up at our schools. They were able to go over the weekend to the safari park. So they were able to go as families. So it was a grant that they were able to get, and so they were able to bless our families with that. So that was awesome to see, just families coming together, going out and spending time together, and it was just great to see. I went to a safety and security meeting, just kind of looking at everything that's going on, just because the different things that are going on within our schools, and just talking about the different things that we have and how we start to prepare for even just the rest of this year and what next year is going to look like and everything that's going on. Still working on the food pantry at OHS and trying to make that an amazing thing to just grow for our students in our community. Was able to go to the city of Oceanside. I went to an ad hoc meeting with the Parks and Recs people, and just had a great conversation about just different things that are going on within our community and different needs that are going on even for our after school teams and our families and our students, that, you know, just to keep them outdoors and get them outdoors and being active again. I went to the OHS volleyball against EC game, and I sat on both sides because that was hard, because it's hard when I love both schools, I have to sit on both sides. So I sat one little bit for EC on one side for a little bit, and then I had to go to the OHS because that's where my kid goes. So I have to celebrate them and love on them. But it was a hard loss to see and to deal with, because, you know, my kid plays volleyball, and so that was hard to deal with when they lose. So go teams, you guys did amazing that night, because that was your very first game. So that was good to see and fun to see. I did a wellness committee meeting again, just trying to figure out the things that we're trying to do for our students, the best and the things that we need to look at for our students to make it just everything right for them, as we look at the wellness part of everything that goes on within their lives, and how we can think just within our schools, how we can make things better and stronger for them within our schools itself. Went to the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce it was Oceanside and Carlsbad together. It was a Chamber of Commerce. Met some great people, had some great communication. So it was great to just again be out again, just talking to people, the different things of talk about how amazing our district is, and just give people an ability and a time to be able to hear about the different things that are going on. Went to a special ed meeting with different families, and just again hearing the needs and the different things that are going on, the way we can communicate with them better, the way that we can help and work with them. I also went to the DPAC meeting that we had this month. So that was great again to hear different things that we're offering, different things that we're doing, different things that we can do. I just ask that our families continue to show up to these DPAC meetings, because these are the places where you can talk, you can hear, you can listen to different things that are going on. And so if you're not going to these things, you're not going to really know what's going on and what you can do to not only be there for your student, but how we can be there for your students. So continue to show up to those meetings as much as you possibly can. So just one more thing. Just thank you again for everything, and our families for just being supportive of your students and getting ready to just be this new norm of whatever it can be. So thank you.
Thanks, Raquel. And Mike Blessing. You're on mute.
Yeah, there we go. No report tonight. I'll just echo Eric's commendation to the women of the world who have suffered a lot and have made strides to get equity in this world with us men. But that's it.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, I've been busy. A lot of the things Raquel said, I joined her on many of those, but I was involved in the two-way bilingual immersion meeting, and we're going to be hearing some more about what they came up with later on tonight. I also attended the Oceanside and Carlsbad Chamber of Commerce networking event with Raquel and met lots of neat people. I have been involved in the special education task force meeting, and this one we just had was focused on parents and what we can do to support parents that have students with disabilities. I did a couple of school site visits. I went over to Oceanside High School, which was exciting. They have several teachers that are working on board certification over there, which is even more fun. I also went to a music festival at El Camino High School. My son, I went as a parent too. My son was performing the standing bass, which was exciting to watch. And I've been going over to South Oceanside Elementary on Thursdays. So to work in a classroom and really see different levels of our school. And I am excited to attend New Pirate Night tomorrow night at Oceanside High School with my son and family, see how that goes. And just like Raquel, I have to do a shout out to the 5th grade teachers at San Luis Rey, soon to be Pablo Talk Elementary. That BizTown, they did so much work, and the students, I got there later in the afternoon, and the students running businesses and checks and paychecks, and it was amazing to watch. But Richard Zimmerman, Victoria Mariani, Cheryl McKean, and their student teacher even participated, Alyssa Castro. So it was great. They did so much work to prepare those students. So thanks again, teachers, for taking that extra step. I'm hoping more teachers will want to look into BizTown for their 5th grade students. Moving on to our next section, item 3C, Oceanside Teachers Association, President Tiffany Cooper Ortega. I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, I'm Tiffany Cooper Ortega, and I'm honored to be able to report on behalf of the members of the Oceanside Teachers Association as their president. Next slide. Happy March, everyone, and happy International Women's Day. Here's to the strong women in our lives. May we be them, may we raise them, and may we surround ourselves with them. ODA members and leadership worked with OUSD on our ongoing committee work listed here, and also began our internal association work to find the priorities of our bargaining unit members in order to prepare for our next bargaining session. Next slide. For this month, I would like to spotlight McAuliffe Elementary, but I want to tell you the story that inspired me to pick McAuliffe and specifically these educators. Recently, okay, it was this morning, but recently I was meeting with Dr. Vitale at an outdoor venue to discuss issues and celebrations throughout our district. And during our conversation, a woman approached our table and said that she recognized Dr. Vitale's voice from school board meetings. She shared that her daughter was a student at Krista McAuliffe, and she mentioned these two educators by name, and it prompted me to reach out to them. Talk about a pivot. So let me introduce you to Louie Huggins, a teacher at McAuliffe, and Jira Romasanta, a counselor at McAuliffe. Mrs. Huggins has been teaching for 38 years, and this is her 32nd year in Oceanside, and all of those years have been at McAuliffe. When she's not inspiring young scholars at McAuliffe, she likes to travel, play pickleball, and I'm just gonna say, I'm still envious of her ability to transform a very plain t-shirt into this gorgeous EC Wildcat shirt. And if she wants to send one of those to me, I'll accept it. Miss Roma Santa was inspired by her high school counselor to become a counselor and has been at McAuliffe for 3 years. When she isn't creating safe spaces for McAuliffe students, she loves boba and spending time with her one-eyed Frenchie named Thor. Isn't that adorable? Next slide. It wasn't just the names of these amazing educators that the parents shared. It was a specific example of her daughter's experience that touched me as both a parent and an educator. She told us that, as is the case with many students and the isolation that students suffered during our pandemic, her daughter was having to learn how to comfortably and effectively interact and communicate with students at the school. Mrs. Huggins, the classroom teacher, noticed and reached out to the parent and suggested an early intervention using the school's counselor, Miss Roma Santa. The student was invited to her lunch bunch where students learn strategies to process emotions and learn coping tools, and they get a special meal. And you know what? It was successful. The parent shared that her daughter is having a far more positive experience at McAuliffe, and the parent was grateful. And when I think of the implications of that social emotional intervention at that early age and the struggles that may have been avoided by this interaction, I consider it valiant. But for the teachers, counselors, and support personnel on Oceanside, it's just what they do. They not only meet the academic needs of their students, but they see the whole child and they meet those needs as well. So I want to say thank you so much to these two educators, as well as all ODA members who do those heroic things every day in the service to their students. And I'd also like to thank OUSD for prioritizing SEL and providing counselors at all school sites. Next slide. So quickly, I also want to spotlight the flexibility of our ODA members. I'd like to reflect on our journey since the pandemic hit in March of 2020. When our teachers went home on that Friday, unsure of what the future would hold for their students and their practice. At that time, in a matter of days, teachers pivoted from using educational technology in their classroom as a way to support and enhance their instruction to using that same educational technology to actually convey their instruction. Then those same teachers found a way to meet their students' needs while they worked in the classroom and while they worked at home, as they navigated the ever-changing protocols and guidances. Teachers, being the superstars that they are, they met the next iteration of instruction head-on. And in the fall of this school year, ODA members returned to full in-person instruction with high expectations and quality instruction for their students. So now we find ourselves on the precipice of the next pivot point, at the end of the mask mandate. As with the general population, you're going to find that we have members who are reticent because of concerns for their own safety and those of their students. And we also have some members who are excited about a step closer to normalcy. The important thing is that ODA members will continue to do what ODA members have always done. They're going to meet this new iteration head on, and they're going to continue to make their students their priority. Next slide. And sadly, I want to take a moment to share that ODA lost 2 of their members in the last few days. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Reynolds teacher Paula McAdoo and mission teacher Elena Morales. On behalf of ODA, I want to say that we want to say that may their memories be eternal. I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up. May their memories be eternal, and all who loved and worked with them find comfort in those memories. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Tiffany. We do not have item 3D CSEA tonight. Dora is unable to share a report. So we're going to move on to item 4, general consent items. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Thank you, Eleanor. I have a first and a second. Any questions or conversation? All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of general consent items, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to our next item 5, personnel. Item 5A is approval of revised job description for our speech language pathologist.
Thank you. Yes, this last job description was updated in 2018. And every so often we do updates to create accurate information with the descriptions for the job. When we do that, we look to industry standard as well as input from practitioners, which we have done to update the language in this particular job description that's for board approval.
Thank you for the explanation. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, I have a first and a second. Are there any questions for Dr. McAteer? All right, all in favor of approving the new job description for speech language pathologist, say aye.
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 All right, motion carries 5-0. All right, thank you. Next item is item 6, curriculum and instruction. Item 6A is acceptance of the A through G completion improvement grant.
Dr. Lovey will turn on her screen and unmute her mic and present these next couple of items.
Yes, good evening, Board of Education. This is a grant that has been awarded to the district pending your approval to improve the outcomes for our high school students in achieving A through G completion rates. The A through G completion rates are those rates that allow students to be eligible to attend the UC system or the CSU system here in California. Your yes vote will enable us to accept these funds that can be used over the next several years.
I'll make a motion to approve. That's great news.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. We had an earlier meeting on this to ask questions. Are there any questions and comments before I call for the vote?
No,
We have
but
the,
go ahead,
I'm
Mike.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Wasn't this an item where we had a public person had requested to speak on this item earlier and we couldn't find them? Are they there now or?
No, Mr. Weston, I don't see them in the room.
Okay, thank you.
Nope, I don't see him either.
Okay. Compliments to everyone who worked on the grant. It's always good to have quote unquote money coming to the district that's recognizing the good work we do. Thank you.
Mr. Weston, actually, I did identify the speaker. If you still want to take that comment.
To the chair,
Yeah, let's go ahead and take it. They might have got mixed up with the 5:30 meeting. Let's see if they want to make a comment on.
Okay.
Okay, they're being promoted now.
While we're waiting for them, I'll just say that this is extremely important, making sure that our high school seniors are getting through it. I'm so glad that we identified and went out for this grant and got it. So thank you, staff, for doing that. I hope that we can use it to make the world a little bit smaller for students that are walking into high schools that are so big and give them some help getting to where they want to be.
Thanks, Eric. I agree. All right, I see Rosie. Hello, Rosie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. We had you down for public comment at 5:30. We had a special meeting. It's kind of confusing. Did you want to speak to this item, the A through G completion?
Yeah, actually, that was like the only item I was able to sign up for on my phone. And then I tried to also sign up for public comments at 5:58. And I'm wondering why that was closed.
All right, well, I'll let
It seems like it's really difficult to try to speak on agenda items when there's only like one thing offered on the drop-down menu.
The public comment form closes at 5:45 before each of our board meetings.
5:45. Okay. Earlier today, I tried to get on for the public comment, and it just gave me one option, and it wasn't the public comment. It was on one of the agenda items.
All right. Would you like to speak to this item?
I wanted to speak to 8 or the hate motivated behavior.
Okay.
I think is that 9? Item 9.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, then we will stay tuned because we're on item 6A right now, and then we'll come back to you.
Perfect.
Thank you for your flexibility. I appreciate it. This is our last Zoom meeting, and then we're going back to in-person.
All right. Good.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of approving the acceptance of the completion improvement grant, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the next item, 6B, approval of new ELD curriculum for the 2020.
Are we frozen?
No, I don't think we're frozen.
It did stop for 1 second.
Sorry.
No problem, no worries. So this item, 6B, is approval for new ELD curriculum for our 6 through 12 students. This curriculum was selected after a opportunity for our families to view the curriculum, our teachers and administrators to review it, and this will support the English language development of our multi-language learners. It'll be paid for out of our Educator Effectiveness Grant, and your vote will allow us to implement this new curriculum in the next school year in 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions for Dr. Levy?
This is, of course, according to the California state standards, correct?
It is aligned to our California state standards.
Thank you.
Better be.
All right, seeing no further questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 6B, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the next item. Item 6C, approval of benchmark workshop, writers workshop, grade K through 5, English and Spanish.
So this is a very exciting opportunity that we have to provide writers' workshop materials that are aligned to our core adopted benchmark materials. We know that writing is essential for our students to be prepared, to be successful in high school and college, and we know that providing these materials will give the tools to our educators with their talents to ensure that all of our students, those who are learning in English and those who are learning in Spanish, are successful in writing. The note is that it is being used Title II funds. We will actually be using COVID funds to purchase these materials for a cost of $244,000 approximately.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Are there any questions or comments for Dr. Levy?
Just say I think that sounds like a great use of COVID funds to get high quality instruction to help students make up any gaps that they might have experienced because of it. Great job.
I'm looking forward to reading some of their writings. Maybe getting it published.
All right, super. All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 5C, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 5D, approval of the consolidated application for the 2021-22 winter release.
Yes, the consolidated application is the way that the California Department of Education allocates funds to local school districts. These funds include Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV programs. This application ensures that we are able to receive those funds for which we are entitled to and be able to enhance the education of our students, improve the outcomes for all of our students, social, emotional, technology, professional learning. So your vote to approve this will allow us to receive those grants which we are entitled to.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, got a first and a second. Any questions or comments for Dr. Levy? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 5D, say aye.
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 All right, motion carries 5-0. All right, moving on to our next item on our agenda, business, item 7. 7A is the approval of resolution number 29 of the 21-22 school year. This is the sale and disposal of district-owned surplus personal property items.
Thank you, Dr. Begin. Education Code authorizes the sale or disposal of district-owned personal property that is not required for school purposes. OUSD has a need to dispose of trucks and vans from the M&O department. District staff has reviewed the conditions and the estimated value of the items listed in Table B and has determined that the value of the items listed exceeds $2,500 in current market value. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve resolution number 29 and authorize district staff to dispose of such property as recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 7A, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 7B, the approval of resolution number 30 for the 21-22 school year, authorizing use of an intergovernmental piggyback contract for the purchase of school furnishings.
Thank you, Dr. Begin. District staff identified the need for various school furnishings intended to provide a flexible and engaging learning environment for students and to facilitate both independent and collaborative learning spaces. In preparation for these purchases, district staff considered various vendors, eventually selecting the DEMCO contract, an intergovernmental piggyback contract, as the procurement method that is in the best interest of the district. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution number 30.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 7B, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Item 7C is a presentation and approval of a second interim financial report for the 2021-22 school year and resolution number 28 for the 21-22, identifying the amount of budget reductions needed in the 22-23 and 23-24 and authorizing reductions. So I'll turn this over to staff.
Thank you, Dr. Begin. School districts are required to submit a second interim financial report as of January 31st each year to the County Office of Education. The interim financial report shows actual revenue and expenditures to date, budget revisions, projected ending balances, and multi-year projections, as well as average daily attendance and cash flow projections. This evening, I have a brief presentation of the second interim financial report. Tonight, we're going to be going over changes to revenue and expenditures, general fund, unrestricted and combined comparison, components of the ending fund balance, assumptions, multi-year projections, fiscal stabilization plans, and then discussing concerns. Next slide. The first slide shows only the unrestricted fund and where we are now compared to first interim. Revenue on the first line remained consistent and expenses were reduced. However, expenses continue to be higher than the revenue, thus resulting in deficit spending and contributing to our structural deficit. Next slide. This is the general fund combined comparison. This slide shows our budget when we combine both unrestricted and restricted funds. Again, the restricted funds are one-time monies. The one-time monies come with strings attached, and they have to be used within the constraints of how they're awarded. We were able to meet our reserves this year with using some of these one-time monies to help us through our structural deficit. For example, paying expenses relating to staffing or major purchases. Next slide. Here we have the components of the ending fund balance. The ending fund balance moves in proportion to our expenditures. The biggest shift has been in this area with non-spendables being paid out to reduce it to a total of $360,032. Restricted funds are made up of mostly categoricals and increase and decrease depending on when they are received and spent. The committed funds are our post-retirement obligations and are assigned as currently set for turf replacement and deferred maintenance. But because of our structural deficit, we will need to use the funds allocated for assignments to offset our deficit in the next 2 years. Whenever you put your budget together, you have to use multi-year projection assumptions, and assumptions come from the County Office of Education. And those assumptions are the 3 that are listed here: your attendance ratio, your COLA, and your declining enrollment. If you look at the first column for 21-22, we were anticipating an ADA ratio of 90.3. Because of all of the quarantines, it's actually come in at 87.86, which means of your total enrollment, 87.86 actually came to school. In 22-23, we anticipate that to go up to 91.3, and in 23-24, we anticipate it to go up to 92.3. However, this could shift based on students coming to school. So this is something we don't have any control of, so we assume a very conservative number. Now we have our MYP COLA revenue. This year, we received 5.07%. Next year, we anticipate 5.33%. And then out year, you'll see that it dips back down to 3.11. This is where we're at right now with budget development. Things can always change depending on what the governor brings forth. One thing that impacts OUSD significantly is our declining enrollment. This year, although we had thought we'd have about 410 kids lost, we only had 110. But next year, our assumptions continue to be 410 and then 410 in the out years. This could also change. We could experience another year where we don't lose as many students. But you know what? I'm on the other slide. If you could go back, thanks, I'm still right there. And so that's something we don't have control over, but it's something that we budget for conservatively. So if we have more kids come to school, that means that there'll be more money than we had anticipated. All right, next slide. So what's really important right now in schools all across California is that there is declining enrollment. And so this blue graph shows what declining enrollment looks like throughout the years. We're about right in the middle with where we are on this graph, not just OUSD, but I mean the state in general. So what's happening is we've had declining enrollment for the last few years, but our ADA has been consistent. And I'm going to show you that in our ADA allocation for LCFF has been consistent. I'm going to show you that in the next slide. But the concern is that we don't have as many children coming to school in person. And then with the challenges of independent study and how it's structured with all of the COVID quarantines, we have master agreements not coming back and we have homework not being turned in. Those are two really important components when we're being audited to be able to receive the funding. And if we don't have those, then we can't collect the funding. Next slide. So this slide shows our changes in ADA. And so this explains, really everyone calls it the ADA cliff in the fiscal world of education. So I'm going to walk through this table so that there's a clear understanding of why next year it's such a significant loss for Oceanside. So in 1920, that's our actual year. That was the year of COVID. Our actual ADA was 16,292. So that's our ADA funding year, and that's our ADA. But the next year, we're still in COVID. And so what happened was the state said in 2021, you're going to have a hold harmless year. You don't need to report your ADA. You're going to get the same money. So our funding year continued to be 1920, same ADA. Now we're in our current year of 21-22. The rule for ADA is you're funded on your current year or your prior year, whichever one is greater. Well, because our prior year was 1920, that's what we got to be funded on again. So now you see that for 3 years, our ADA stayed the same, even though in reality, we were losing kids. So what happens next year is that we either have to take current or prior year. Our actual ADA this year is 14,532. We anticipate that going down again next year to 14,502. Remember, the rule is current or prior, whatever is greater. That means you follow that red arrow down. We're going to go from 16,292 to being funded 14,532. And that's what you call the ADA cliff. There is hope. There's legislation, and the governor's proposing doing a 3-year rolling average, which means Oceanside would be able to capture that 1920 year in our average, which would definitely help soften the blow for ADA. We could also have more kids come than we had anticipated. But I wanted to take time to explain this because in a slide that's coming up, I'm going to show the fiscal impact of this.
Dr. Norman?
Yeah.
Has our enrollment dropped as much as our ADA dropped over the last couple of years?
Our enrollment's been dropping as well. Mm-hmm. But what hits us
about 100 kids this year in enrollment.
Right, and overall in our ADA, we've lost over 1,700. That's in the next slide. But what's hitting us is that we're at 87%, where we're usually up at 94. And so even though maybe our enrollment hasn't dropped that significantly, our kids haven't been coming. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So I'm showing you the multi-year projection in unrestricted. The reason that we want to look at unrestricted is when you're looking at structural deficits, you need to really look at your unrestricted because that's the money coming in from your LCFF and where you can make the most significant changes to your budget. You can see in this year and in the next year, we're able to meet our financial obligations. But in the third year out, you can see that we've got about a $13 million gap between revenue and expenditures, which then causes us the amount needed to meet reserves is 7.8. Because that 13 in the middle, following the arrow, it gets bumped up. So that helps offset, but we've got this amount needed to meet the reserve. And your reserve is always your 3% calculated on your combined summary. It's not just your unrestricted. So this is really important. But again, what could change this? A higher COLA could change it. A change in ADA could change it. So we could get more supplemental and concentration. And so that's why third year can be a moving target. And so some people get concerned, well, how much do we take into consideration for third year? For our district, because the number is so significant, we really need to consider what's happening in the third year out. So then we'll go to the next. Yeah.
Do we have a choice to change our projection so to not go down 400, say to go down 200?
You can. I get to meet with the county regularly, and they really advise us to stay at 410 because if you estimate it less than that and it doesn't come in, then you've got to go back in and revise your whole budget because now you haven't budgeted enough money to meet your expenses. So it's highly advised that you don't change your conservative assumptions. You want to keep them conservative because you don't want to be insolvent and you don't want to not have enough money for your budget. It's better to be over and then to trim back. Okay, going on to the next one, we have the combined summary. So it looks similar, a few more lines, but this is where you put your restricted together, you put your unrestricted together. You can see the next 2 years, we're able to meet our financial obligations. And then the reductions go to about 8.7. That's because we also have to add in non-spendables, which are about 360,000 and other commitments. That's our cash in our stores. You have to have your cash on hand, and then 512,500. And so when you add those in, you get up to 8.7 million that's needed for cuts in the third year out. So what's really important to look at as our next slide with concerns is our COLA is great. We're going to get close to 10 million more. However, when you look at that drop in ADA that I explained in the previous slide with how we went from 3 years of a consistent over 1,600 down to in the 1,400s, we lose a lot of money. We lose over $20 million. And then you take into account the increased costs of step and column, STRS and PERS. We have uncapped health and welfare, which means we have to budget in more. And then we have our increase in utilities and liability insurance. That means we're already starting the year off at a shortfall, and that's with a 533 COLA. So I think it's important that we look at this as we move forward and think about what are things that we could do in order to have a stable budget. And so that goes to our next slide. Our expenditure adjustments need to be about 8.7 million, and that's what's in the resolution tonight. We need to continue to align staffing with declining enrollment for fiscal solvency. We need to reduce in our unrestricted budget where we can. These are just some ideas for supplies, services, and other operating expenses. And then we also have the opportunity to utilize one-time COVID funds to allow time to correct the structural deficit. You don't always want to use one-time money, but if it does allow us this next year to make adjustments that then will be ongoing, it would be significant. And the state's allowing this because they know the districts are up against this ADA cliff. And so ESSER monies can then help mitigate that loss in revenue for all the districts.
But Dr. Norman, that makes the assumption that we actually adjust our moving forward from there, right? Because that's just a bridge into another year where we'll still have the same issue, assuming.
That's a key point. We have to adjust. That would buy us the time, and then you've got to put a real plan in action, or all you've done is kick the can. I mean, you've not solved any problems, and if you're going to use this money to solve a problem, we need to solve the problem.
When we say services, reduce in unrestricted services, what are some examples of unrestricted services?
Services and other operating expenses, like utilities, contracts, travel, just basically things that we would contract out for, we could reduce. Legal fees, all the things that really eat up a lot of your money that you could try to put a cap on as best you could.
I know we've done a really good job of kind of going around keeping all of our cuts out of the classroom. I know that when you do that enough, and you start to run out of things to.
You do. So that's the end of my presentation. Are there any more questions?
I don't have any questions. I have a comment. I know those third year assumptions are extremely conservative. They've yet to come to fruition, thank goodness. So hopefully we will not have to make those cuts the third year out. But I appreciate the information. It keeps us really looking at how we're spending our money to make sure we're supporting teaching and learning.
My
Any
only
questions?
comment would, yeah, I just have a comment too. It's not a question. Is that I would love for us to engage in this conversation as a workshop sometime in the next 6 months. I don't know if you all feel the same. It just feels like we're in this treadmill every year, and I keep thinking every year that we're like almost out of it, and then we're pulled right back in. So I would love to not be on this list anymore. And if that means we sit down and look at, hey, what are the things that we're going to have to do to make it off of the list of just a handful of districts that are down their third year out, because that list is much smaller in the state this year. I would love to sit down and talk with you all about that and figure out what we're going to do.
And the list with that ADA cliff may be actually larger. So it depends what happens. But duly noted, Eric, your request. So thank you. Are there any other questions, or can I call for the vote? Or actually, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to call.
I'll second the motion, but with the same thing with like Eric, I want to talk some more about it. I feel like I want some honest numbers in the third year out of what we're actually looking at and what things actually cost. So if there's a way that we can have that conversation and have deep conversation about it, that would be great for me.
Okay. Julie's taking that in, Dr. Vitale. All right.
Yeah,
All right,
we're
I'm gonna
taking that in, but the numbers that we gave you are the most honest, accurate numbers that we have. And one thing that I want to say about the enrollment projections, we've had a steady decline of about 410 students over the last at least 5 to 8 years. That's why we use that number. This year, we didn't actualize that, and that helped our budget. So that's very helpful. We're always going to use the more conservative number for the reasons that Dr. Norman said. So just know that those numbers are based on what has happened in the past. Mm-hmm. And both the business department and HR are working right now on their projections for next year. They do those projections separately, and then they come together and compare those projections. And then that's what we base our staffing reductions on. And all of the reductions we'll be able to do through attrition, which means retirement. People do move or resign for other reasons. And that's a real focus of ours, that we reduce on the natural and not in any other way. So it's a complex process that we're involved in right now, but we do use a lot of data for that. So I just wanted to give a little bit more information on that piece, Eric, for the enrollment projections. And that's why we don't just change it down to 200 to improve the budget, if that makes sense.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear all the way around, that these are things that are not moving. And so the things that need to move are what we can do. So, I mean, when we talk about really making cuts, then like, I think it would make that conversation real when we start talking about things getting cut. So that's why I'd like to have the conversation, because it feels very not real until we get stuck in the position where our ADA falls off a cliff, 1,700 kids, and we're funded at 80% of what we are this year. That's going to be very real, really fast. So.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 7C, say aye.
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 Do I have any opposed? I didn't hear everybody. All right, motion carries 5-0. All right, moving on to item 8A. Turn it over. Board member Eric Joyce is going to read our resolution of number 31, proclaiming the month-long celebration of National Women's History Month in March.
I am thrilled to read this, despite my reading fluency at the end of the day. Thank you for the invitation. So, whereas in 1978, Women's History Week was first celebrated in Sonoma County, California, and whereas President Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th, 1980 as National Women's History Week, and whereas thousands of schools and communities began celebrating National Women's History Week. By 1986, 14 states had already declared March as Women's History Month. And whereas in 1987, Congress declared March as National Women's History Month in perpetuity. And a special presidential proclamation is issued every year which honors the extraordinary achievements of women in the United States. And whereas during Women's History Month, in the Oceanside Unified School District Board of Education acknowledges the additional determination, hard work, and perseverance women of color, LGBTQ identifying women, and others must put forth to be heard and seen, and that these additional efforts are a result of inequitable, institutional, and systemic injustices. And whereas during Women's History Month, we acknowledge the paid and unpaid impact of women, whether serving in elected positions across America, leading the groundbreaking civil rights movements, venturing into unknown frontiers, or programming revolutionary technologies. Generations of women that knew their gender was no obstacle to what they could accomplish have long stirred new ideas and opened new doors, having a profound and positive impact on our community. And whereas women in the United States have also been leaders in the abolitionist movement, the labor movement, civil rights movement, the Me Too and Black Lives Matter movements, and many other movements creating a more fair and just society for all. And whereas despite these contributions and leadership, the role of women and women of color in the U.S. history has been consistently overlooked and undervalued in the literature, teaching, and study of American history. Whereas 3 of the 5 Board of Education trustees for the Oceanside Unified School District self-identify as women, and both members of the board leadership, president and vice president, self-identify as women. Whereas Oceanside Unified School District classified employees and certificated employee labor partner leadership self-identify as women. And whereas the Oceanside Unified School District selected Dr. Julie Fidali as the district's first woman superintendent in July of 2018. Whereas the Oceanside Unified School District is committed to and advocates for the equal educational, professional, and social opportunities for women and girls. Now, therefore, the Oceanside Unified School District Board of Education does hereby proclaim March 1st through March 31st, 2022 to be Women's History Month in the Oceanside Unified School District. Be it further resolved that Oceanside Unified School Board Education strongly encourages staff, students, and the community to observe, recognize, and celebrate the culture, heritage, and impact of women and girls to our country, our state, our city, and yes, our schools. Thank you.
Move approval.
Thanks, Eric, for reading all of that. I appreciate it. So we have a first and a second. Can I call for the vote? All in favor of approving item 8A, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item, item 8B, revision of board policy 5145.9, hate motivated behavior.
Thank you, Dr. Regan. Good evening, Board of Education and Dr. Vitale. The board policy 5145.9, hate motivated behavior, is being updated to bolster the governing board's commitment to providing a respectful, inclusive, and safe learning environment. Some of the additions include looking at the motivators of prohibited behavior, celebrating diversity, topics to be included in instruction for students and also staff development, and also ways in which students and staff be held accountable for violating the hate motivated behavior policy. This is in accordance with updates to CSBA policy, and we recommend that the Board of Education approve the revisions to BP 5145.9. Thank you.
We have public speakers for this item, I believe.
Yes, we do. We have 2, Patty Kay and Rosie Higuera.
We'll start with Patty and get her promoted. Just a quick reminder, I know you guys have been to these meetings before and done public comment, but you have 3 minutes.
Miss Day, yes.
All right. Are you ready, Patty?
I pass. It was a mistake.
Oh, it was a mistake? Okay. All right, so Rosie?
Okay, yeah. So I wanted to address, I was really surprised by Eric, by your comment. Did you really say that you guys kept the cuts out of the classroom? It really doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like all of your financial decisions seem to benefit.
Rosie?
Yeah.
You're speaking to item, you're
8B on the
speaking to a
policy.
different.
No, that's what I'm
Hate
addressing.
motivated behavior. So
Yeah.
I'm just reminding you.
Yes. Okay. So it looks like you guys are coming up with a policy against hate motivated behavior. But it's interesting because you're bringing in all of these lessons on morality. Let's see, gender, ethnicity, CRT, you're teaching the kids how to hate people of another color, and then you're going to punish them for this hate motivated behavior, which seems really hypocritical to me if you guys are the ones that are introducing all this gender confusion and all of these lessons on morality that have no place in the school. This should be up to the parents and the families to teach their children, not the school. And so the fact that we have like a whole, staff, Dr. Jordy, that addresses these issues of multi-ethnic studies is really beyond me. I think we need to stop these studies, and I think we need to focus on the learning, the math, the science, the reading. Our scores are in the tank. They're terrible. We need to help the kids with this whole COVID thing as well. And I think that we will do a lot better doing that. And I also am not surprised that our school attendance numbers are down. It looks like we're going to have to maybe pull our kids from the schools because our schools are failing our children. And it's very sad because there's millions and millions of dollars and the budget, you guys can't seem to handle the budget or put the emphasis on the children and their learning and their safety. You're introducing all of these ridiculous ideas and theories that have no place in the school. And so I'm not surprised that parents aren't sending their kids to school. I anticipate a lot of parents pulling their kids out as well. They should, because our voices are not being heard or respected. I want to encourage you all to also go see Whose Children Are They? Premiering March 14th. It is a movie talking about what's going on in our school system and how our school boards and our teachers' unions have failed us miserably. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. All right, so we only had one comment on that item. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second. Any comments? All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 8B, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to our next item, item 8C, approval of revisions to Board Policy 6146, graduation requirements and standards of proficiency.
Yes, good evening, board. Policy Development 8C addresses our graduation requirements, specifically the world language requirement. As we know that our 8th grade students in our two-way bilingual immersion program are currently taking AP Spanish language and culture at the middle school level. We have worked with the California Department of Education, the UC system, and the CSU system to ensure that this update to the policy states that all students who are enrolled in that course and receive a C or better in the course will receive full credit towards their A through G requirements for admission to the University of California and CSU, and they will also be able to have the full high school graduation credit for world languages based on their passage of this course. This is very exciting news for our students and a great way forward for our two-way bilingual immersion program. Your approval will ensure that this occurs for all of our students.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I've got a first and a second. My son will be extremely excited about this. He is in 8th grade right now in the pioneer class of dual language. So thank you for all the hard work you guys did on coordinating to get this to happen. All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving item 8C, say aye. Aye.
Stacy, I am so sorry to interrupt you. I believe we
Oh.
have a public comment on this
Do
item.
we?
So, Anne, can you confirm, do we have a public comment on this item?
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do. Okay, so hold the vote then.
Okay.
We have a first and a second.
Patty K.
No comment.
Okay, I'll call for the vote again.
Thank you, Patty.
Yeah, thank you. All in favor of approving item 8C, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Okay, I'll slow my roll. I'm sorry. I didn't want to miss public comments. They're super important. Item 8D, deletion of board policy 5132.2 uniforms.
Yes, item 8D, policy development, is the deletion of a board policy that is obsolete, as we do not require school uniforms for students anymore in Oceanside Unified School District. So your vote to delete this will align with our current practices in our district.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second, and I would be remiss if I did not note for the record that sometime between 1993 and 1996, my wife, along with I think Emily Witchman was on the board at the same time, instituted the uniform policy, which was controversial at the time, but was thought to be needed at the time to make a statement and make some changes in Oceanside's image. So it lasted as long as it needed to last and be in place. And I think our image is in a good spot now. So anyway, kudos to my wife. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the history on that. I had no idea. All right, are there any questions or comments? All right, I'll call for the vote. Go ahead.
Wait. How does this affect the dress code in general? Do we have a dress code for the district?
Doesn't affect it.
We do have a dress code, Ms. Evans, and it's been updated under the leadership of Dr. Sparks and our student services in consultation with our site leaders to align with the best practices around dress code.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call for the vote. Thank you. All in favor of approving item 8D, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 8E, approval of revision of board policies 4119.25, 4219.25, and 4319.19, political activities of employees.
Thank you for reading that, Dr. Begin. Yes, this is to update our 2010 policy to reflect current CSBA policy language, which includes recognizing the importance of employee political activity, voting, and civic engagement, and reflects the Perkins versus Board of Education Township High School District regarding the prohibition against dismissing or demoting an employee due to engagement in constitutionally protected political activity.
Thanks for the explanation. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor of approving item 8E, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, moving on to item 9, which is public comments on non-agenda items. I'm going to turn it over to Ann Givens so she can call up. I believe we have 4 public comments.
Yes, we do. I'll call them up all at one time. Brad Tobias, Todd Madison, Patty K, and Emily Witchman. We'll start out with Brad.
Good evening, Brad.
Hey, good evening. How's it going, everybody? Long time no see. I just want to say, I'm glad that next month everything is moving back to in person at Chavez Middle School. I think it's personally, and based on my comments in the past, it's definitely should have been done a lot sooner. However, it's going back to in person, and I think that's going to benefit the meetings, especially because there were so many issues tonight, and it just proved that these need to be in person. So thanks for shifting gears on that. Really came in tonight just watching. Had nothing really prepared to say, but based on the presentation that was presented a couple of minutes ago, a couple of issues came up. First, the decline in enrollment year by year. That is concerning, especially because we are in a military town, and all students and all families that live on Camp Pendleton go to Oceanside schools for the most part. And there's always people coming and going on base, so that in and of itself is disturbing. Also, the budget is continually in the red, month after month, or quarter after quarter when these presentations are held. It's always in the red, and in 2022 and 2023, the shortfalls are in the $18+ million range, which is just alarming, to say the least. If we're going to be spending money wildly, I would suggest buying better food for the kids. My kids, I have 3 that go to Oceanside schools, and they always say that their school is terrible, almost to the point where they're not eating lunch because it's that bad. As a parent, that's again alarming. I'll put it like that. Basically, based off these topics, as far as enrollment and the budget, I would give you guys an F. And that's just and that's just being having an open heart and an open mind with it. And to Mr. Eric Joyce, you're openly campaigning to run for city council. I just want to say, if you can't run in your trustee area and effectively be on a school board, how are you going to be able to go ahead and be a productive member of our city council? Eric Joyce, you and all the other board members, I think you could do a good job. You could do a better job. You all are well educated, and I think you just need to listen to us parents, because that doesn't happen very often, and that's proven month after month. And thank you for your time. Bye.
Thank you, Brad. Our next speaker, Ann.
Todd Madison.
There we go.
Hello, Todd.
All right. Thanks. Thank you very much. So tonight, once again, I'd like to talk about having a board that actually puts our kids' interests first, over and above special interests and the adults in the district. As I've said many times before, our board has forgotten who voted them into office, we, the parents. The board is supposed to be the voice of parents in our district, but as we've seen so much in the past few years, they appear to be more the voice of employees and adults in the district, not so much parents and kids. We hear about how important our kids are, but if you want to see where someone's priorities lie, watch for how they spend their money. Tonight, we've seen the second interim budget, and it's grim. I'm glad we're able to use one-time COVID funds to cover up the fiscal mismanagement for another year. We wouldn't want to use those funds for something wild like educating our kids, would we? Are we in this position because we're spending too much on our kids? Trustee Joyce mentioned the budget treadmill we're on and wants off. That's great. But was he not in the October board meeting? We had that opportunity, and the board's response was to add almost $10 million to that deficit by unanimous vote, not to benefit our kids, but to further pad the compensation of people mostly into 6 figures, including another $15,000 for the superintendent and another $9,000 for the president of the teachers union. Exactly how is that putting the interest of kids first? And here we are, another $9 million in cuts to the education of our kids. We see the priorities. For those watching these meetings, if you recognize this, if you feel education dollars should be spent on education, if you're a person who sees problems and wants to fix them, how about helping to fix this one? This year is an election year. It's time for parents to step up and take control of our board to make it work for our kids, not for special interests. Districts 1, 3, and 4 are up for election. The district website has maps. If you're not sure which district you're in, go to the Board of Education section. If you're listening to this and you care about the education of our kids, is it time to step up and run? I'm a co-director of the Oceanside Parent Association, and the Parent Association is planning on doing what it can to support Kids First candidates in the next election. If you'd like to discuss what running for board is all about, email us. The email address is oceanside.usd@parentassociation.net. That's oceanside.usd@parentassociation.net. And lastly, we all know that school choice is the real solution. Real power comes when parents can simply choose a different school if their board, their district, or their union is putting themselves first, not their kids. We need signatures on our petition to get it on the ballot. We're doing great so far, but we've got a big job ahead of us. Join us to help that by going to californiaschoolchoice.org and signing up to help, then getting out and getting signatures for the effort. That's californiaschoolchoice.org. Let's take back our education system, make it work for our kids, not for the special interests for a change.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Patty.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I've met some of you personally, and others I have not. I'm sure you're all really nice people. However, the short time that we've been attending board meetings, we've tried to explain to you how the school board and implementation in the school is going off track. And I was shocked when this resolution proclaiming the month-long celebration for National Women History Month was diverted when Eric read it to, not women, but Black women and LGBTQ. And Eric, your nod to one woman out of all the women in history was very woke. You people must understand that. Mike Blessing, can you pay attention, please? And so I want you to understand where you're going. I'd like to think you don't know, but we've been telling you. Also, the budget deficit is something in the months I've been watching, Todd has been talking about, showed you facts and figures. You cannot possibly express surprise, and you're not doing anything, but each meeting spending more and more money on school furniture, 9 million, 10 million on salaries, and then say, what are we going to do? You just can't. I hope that you don't do that with your own budget. I asked for appearance report. That's not included on the agenda. I will ask again. I did notice on an audit report for June 21, and that was not gone over, and there was no discussion on some of the discrepancies, I'm sorry to say. There was also a school accountability report card on, I believe it was last month's agenda, that it was a line item that was totally ignored as far as any kind of discussion, which would have showed you, how ineffective the instruction is in the classroom. Our kids are not achieving. Also, in addition to the woke agenda, you are actually allowing the Boys and Girls Club now to come into the classroom in middle school and add more woke stuff on diversity and inclusion. We don't need any more of that. Also, you're adding LGBTQ discussions, I believe, as a recruiting tool. So parents out there listening, please be aware. Come March 14th, all parents and school board, you did receive an invitation to the premier.
Thank you, Patty, for your comments. Our last speaker tonight is Emily Wichman. Good evening, Emily.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'd like to bring to the attention of the school board a group called the School Board Members for Local Control, and they met to ask Newsom to allow for, quote, local control when it comes, in this particular instance, to mask protocols among students and staff.
And I think this is going to be an ongoing issue because of the different strains of COVID coming on. This group is organized by Andrew Hayes of Lakeside School Board, and it's made up of the different officials from the different school board districts. And he states, the first priority of school board members is to ensure all students are receiving and have access to the quality public education. School board members have a responsibility to advocate for our districts and communities. Local control allows us to do that by making decisions based on local conditions. Every district and community are different. One size fits all policy from Sacramento places unnecessary burdens on families, teachers, staff, and district administration. As of February 14th, there was 19 school board members throughout the county who have pledged support for this local control. In our district, I can see several issues as far as local control. One is, why is the school district losing students who are walking distance from their neighborhood schools like Del Rio, Reynolds, and Libby? I've never heard the reasons why they are leaving. We had a robust district at one time of 23,000 students and now barely 15,000. We have plenty of housing since then within our district boundaries. Our charter and private schools all around us have waiting lists to register students. Also academics. Will we see a rise in test scores, making sure our kids are getting the basics and working towards enriching education? How about joint land use with the city? What was the city going to do with the Garrison property if the district would have sold it to them instead of to a developer? How about Pacifica? Our tax dollars have been going to those properties to be used for our families and children and youth. The lack of playing fields in Oceanside is critical. Many sports teams have to look elsewhere to play. Future planning and out-of-the-box ideas could have served our children, youth, and families of Oceanside as they were meant to be, but are forever lost. The well-being of our community. Playing fields could have provided fun and healthy activities for further generations. How about unity in our community? Why can't we have one flag for all the different groups? In the resolutions that have been proclaiming month-long celebrations of different groups, I've only seen one flag claiming one group. Is this inclusion? Where are all the other flags? Why not just have the one? Why be hypocrites? Thank you, board, for listening.
Thank you. That concludes public comments. Anne, didn't miss anyone, did we?
No, we're done.
Okay, great. So the next item on our agenda, we're almost done, is board or staff discussion. Anybody have any final comments for tonight?
Just two quick things. Shining the big, beautiful light on somebody who has done a great deed for our country doesn't diminish the work that others have done. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions about ethnic studies and the work in equity that we do, is that shining the light on somebody that deserves to be the light to be shined on does not diminish anything about what you have done and the work that you've done and the trials that you may have gone through. So I just want to say, for everybody out there that wants to shine a light on somebody that's doing that work, do it. Don't let anyone tell you not to. The second piece is that we have a really exciting upcoming board workshop later in the month. So like Raquel said, I hope everybody shows up. We can have a great conversation about facilities.
And that will be in person. Very excited. All right. No more board discussion or comments? And I will happily adjourn this meeting at 7:35 p.m. Thank you, board colleagues. Thank you, participants. Have a nice evening.
Adios to Zoom.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Night.
Good night.
Recording stopped.